folks, if I can have your attention, the family has made additional chairs available for anyone who needs to be seated. On such an emotional, difficult day, it would not be seen as a sign of weakness, but rather a sign of wisdom to take advantage of that if needed. We will be starting our services momentarily. We're going to ask that everyone please take a moment to turn your cell phones to their silent mode before we begin. There is also water available in a cooler by the end of the tent, back end of the tent if anyone should need it, but it is available. Conducting our service today is going to be Rabbi Michael Sommer, and we are going to begin our service today with a rendering of military honors.
The act of Kriya, the act of tearing our garments, is as old as biblical times. When a loved one died back then, they would rent their clothing and pour ash upon their head. The act has come forward as a ribbon that a mourner wears in their lapel to let family and friends to know to approach them with love and sympathy at this time. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam dayan emet. Blessed are you, Lord our God, judge of truth. Esainai el eharim me'ayin yahavo ezri. Esainai el eharim me'ayin yahavo ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai Oseh Shemayim va'aretz. Ezri me'im Adonai Oseh Shemayim va'aretz. The psalmist in those words wrote long ago, I lift my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul, your going and coming now and forever. Poet wrote, what is the measure of a man? His measure is the kind words people say when he isn't there, and the memories he creates that stay indelible in the minds of all who knew him. What is the measure of a man? It is the amount of love he leaves in people's hearts and the laughter he leaves upon people's lips. It is the length of time he's remembered, his good deeds and his kind words. Measured in the length of years, stories of his best moments get told by family and loved ones alike. The world is truly poorer this week, having lost an incredible individual in the death of our beloved Howard Walton. Surviving the worst of humanity, Howard brought the best of himself into the world in music, business, humor, friendship, and love. He changed his name from Wackenheimer when he had to join the army in his new country. Margot and Howard were founding members of Congregation B'nai Torah of Highland Park in 1954. And Mark, you talked about it being an argument whether you were the first baby named in the fledgling congregation or not, but we'll go with you were the first baby named in the congregation. All of your lives you have been integral in the congregation and were dedicated to being active in Jewish life and raising a Jewish family. Howard would always stand in as acting lay leader when Rabbi Singer was off for the summer. He and Mike Hecht would lead together into a rousing rendition of the Shabbat Kiddush and blessing over the wine. It was very theatrical. Howard was a proud member of B'nai Torah's choir, loved playing his violin, and was head of the ritual committee for many years. He loved being an usher for the high holidays, so it is fitting that he should leave us just the days before Rosh Hashanah to reunite with his beloved Margot. We are so blessed with those we shared life with. Son of Elizabeth and Ludwig of blessed memory, husband of Margot of blessed memory for over 64 years, father of Debbie and Michael, Mark and Julie, Papa of Jessica and Seth, Alyssa and Jeremy, Jory and Griffin, Adam and Kristen, Jordan and Sharon and Allie, and of course, great Papa to Dylan. We are so blessed with the lives we share. May Howard's memory always be a blessing as we celebrate the memory of his life and all the blessings he brought into our lives. The poet wrote, oh, the years have passed and my eyes have seen so much. Time has flowed slowly and quickly, the eternal river that it is. I've watched so many of you go from young to old and wondered how you all could grow so while I remain so young within this old frame, harboring all of my precious memories and thoughts. Gold are the memories of laughter and celebrations. Diamonds are those moments I watched you all flourish and help bring new life into this world. Beyond precious remain those instants surrounded by all of your noise and tussle as we lived life to the very edge of amazement. You've allowed me to paint my blessings in colors of brightness and merriment. Shed no tears for my life lived so well. Just remember me with a smile at all we shared. The Byrds made popular these ancient words of Ecclesiastes when they sang that there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak. Now is the time we speak of Howard's incredible life as they called his daughter Debbie to speak of her father.
My dad's final words to me on Monday afternoon were, "I tried." Even in his final moments, his humility shined through. I assured him that he did not just try, he succeeded in living life always to the fullest and setting an example for his family of how to live a life filled with love, humor, and strength for all of us to aspire to. I got to share 65 precious years with my dad and endless memories. From as far back as I can remember, I was a daddy's girl. I never ventured too far for too long from Highland Park and my dad. The greatest gift my dad instilled in me was the sheer love of life. From the time my dad was a little boy in Germany, his mom, our Omi, would always share stories about not being able to find her Horst. He was always outside on the streets of Worms, the town he was born in, playing with his friends. Later, after he escaped concentration camp and safely arrived in Chicago, as a high schooler, he was never to be found at home. He was always out with his buddies, Eddie Stern, Howie Zimmerman, Seymour Gottlieb, Phil Bain, and Harriet Stern, the woman of the group, who tried mostly unsuccessfully to keep these guys in line. All remained lifelong friends, a testament to their loyalty, strength of character, and fun-loving personalities. Throughout my childhood, my dad provided me with a sense of balance. My parents' marriage was a clear case of opposites attracting. My mom would always say, "Howard is the fun-loving one in the relationship. He's easygoing and everyone loves him." She was right about that. While my mom's childhood, losing her parents in the Holocaust, left her with emotional scars that made it difficult for her to find the joy in life, my dad was able to provide me and my brother with a sense of adventure, looking at life through a glass overflowing, and always with love and a sense of humor that more than occasionally bordered on mischief. "Dad, how many times did I sneak a big bowl of ice cream for you only to have to hide it under your chair when Mom would unexpectedly walk into the den and sit down to talk to us? When she finally walked out, all you had left was a bowl of ice cream soup." My dad also loved his martini. He enjoyed one every night of his life until very recently. At the inappropriate young age of 8, my dad taught me the art of making the perfect martini, including cutting a lemon rind to rub around the edge of the glass and stick in the freezer so it was all ready to enjoy upon stepping in the door after work. My dad was my confidant, always. How many dads would pick up their daughter at their city apartment with an overnight bag in hand, take them to dinner, and drop them off at a different location to rendezvous with some guy he barely knew? It was to meet up with Michael. About 10 years ago, my dad and I began having our Friday lunch dates. Every Friday, One of us would select a restaurant and we would meet up and enjoy a leisurely 2-hour date. These were precious moments where we solved the world's problems, or at least attempted to solve some of our family issues. Some weeks we would dine with one of my dad's special friends, such as Jim Foster or Seal Masler. Unlike my mom, my dad was a very gracious guest. 7 years ago, my dad had a serious fall in his bathroom, and due to this accident, he was left with some limitations that forced him to accept and deal with life in an alternative way. He demonstrated positivity, determination, and a willingness to accept change and work with it. Shortly after the accident, we realized we had a need for having caregivers to help take care of both my mom and dad. Our family has been blessed and so fortunate to have two incredible women come into our lives. Graciela Salinas, who we affectionately call Chella, and Maria Cortez have been largely responsible for my dad making it long enough to meet his great-grandson, considering all the health challenges he has had along the way. Chella and Maria, along with their families, have become our family. My parents received unconditional love, commitment, friendship, and care from both. Chella and Maria worked together to coordinate care. If one was sick, the other came. If one had to go out of town, the other was there. Chella, we love you and your family. We thank you for your dedication, your love, and nurturing you gave my dad 24/7. You were my dad's special Chella. Now your baby Dylan's Chella. Monday was Dylan's first day with his two nannies, Papa and Chella. I came to check on the gang in the afternoon, and I found Dylan, who is 4 months old, laying next to Papa, smiling and babbling as Papa was eating his ice cream. What a sweet and treasured memory I will always have. My dad was a charmer. It is my hope that his infectious smile, his warmth and zest for life are indelibly etched in our family's minds and souls. And I hope and pray that the values, the strength, and adaptability that my dad demonstrated throughout his life will carry on in our kids and their kids as well. I love you, Dad.
I call up Howard's grandkids, Jessica, Alyssa, Jory, Adam, Jordan, and Allie.
Dear Papa, I was the luckiest to have 36 years with you, my favorite person. The imprint you have left on my life is indelible. To work hard but have fun, to laugh a lot, to travel the world, to value friendships, to enjoy a drink or two, to appreciate Judaism, to be a loyal partner in marriage, and above all else, to love your family fiercely. As I told you often, I was your number one grandchild. While you would only ever acknowledge this applied to birth order, I really pushed for it to extend beyond that. Unfortunately, you never agreed. All 6 of us grandkids adored you. You were so easy to love. Your energy was boundless, and you supported all of us, attending every cheerleading competition, baseball game, ice skating show, and piano recital, though the last 2 were quite painful. My apologies. Our annual winter vacations were the best part of the year. I loved sharing a condo with you and Ami, though I do wish you wore pajamas when you walked to the bathroom in the morning. Having helped start B'nai Torah, you and Ami were loyal members. Every year at High Holiday Services, we could walk into the Deerfield High School auditorium and instantly know where to find you and Ami, seated in the same seats for 30 plus years. Thank you. You loved downtown Chicago. I would often call you and Ami on my walk home from work, and you'd ask my cross streets so you could picture where I was. One day, while I was working at the Hyatt Regency Chicago, I received a call from the front desk saying my grandfather was there to see me. Confused, I came to the front, and sure enough, there you were. I asked you what you were doing there, and you said you were just in the neighborhood, though you had taken the train from Highland Park to the city just to say hello. Your love and devotion to Ami was an inspiration to all of us. Ami was tough on you, often reprimanding her goodess for eating too many sweets, to which you would roll your eyes and we'd sneak you some more. Speaking of love and devotion, when Ami passed away, you got a dog, Minnie, who was unquestionably the ugliest dog any of us had ever seen. And to top it off, she wasn't potty trained. But you loved Minnie, and you would tell us she was so cute, which was when we knew your vision was not great. But your love for Minnie was representative of your loyalty to those you cared about. I am most grateful that Dylan had the opportunity to meet you. He was lucky to spend this past Monday with you and Chella as I returned to work. While I wish he got to spend many more days with you, we can already see your influence on him as he definitely inherited your gift of gab. Papa, I will miss you immensely, but it's my greatest privilege to have had you and Ami as my grandparents. I look forward to letting the values you bestowed upon us guide me as I embark on the journey of parenthood, leaving your and Ami's imprint on Dylan and the next generation of cousins to come. I love you, Jessie.
One of the most important lessons that Papa taught me was to live life to its fullest. He traveled to every corner of the world, had a glass of vodka every night until recently, tried sushi for the first time at 91, and insisted it was all right to get a good mix of grades. While we will do our best to carry on his legacy in this way, life won't feel as full without him. I'll miss his stories, telling him my secrets, and trying to get him to admit that I'm his favorite. It's no secret that all of us grandkids think that we're Papa's favorite. When we call him and he can't tell whose voice it is, we just say, "It's your favorite," and wait patiently for him to say, "Oh, Lissy." It doesn't happen, but it's worth a shot. He's too full of love to have a favorite. A few weeks ago when I was visiting him, he spoke to me a lot for the first time in a while. At the end of the conversation, I gave him lots of kisses and told him how much I love him. The very last thing he said was, "I love you all the same," with the slightest hint of a grin.
Dear Papa, oh God, well, it's a kind of chilly 5-star day. The perfect type of day in your eyes. Oh man, I can't see this. The perfect type of day in your eyes. Nothing could beat the blue skies, sunshine, and light breeze. It's the perfect beach day, golf day, grab a scoop of butter pecan ice cream, or even a tall glass of vodka kind of day. You were a 5-star day, Papa. Pure joy with the ability to put an instant smile on anyone's face, and undoubtedly loved by everyone who met you. Just hearing you say hello in your iconic accent, or seeing you give the slightest funny facial expression could make someone's day. I know it might have gotten annoying all the times I'd put a camera in front of your face and video you, but boy am I glad I did it, because the last 24 hours I've spent going through my camera roll and saved voicemails, getting to relive some of the most precious moments with you. Like just a year and a half ago when, out of the blue, you were trying to teach me how to use the word extemporaneously, or all the special Molcheshire I'd beg for you to tell me. Up until just recently, you'd always remember to ask Griffin how his golf game was, and I have about 15 old voicemails saved from you, each of them signing off with you saying, "Much love, Papa." People from near and far have been talking about how special you were, and there is no better word to describe you. Your type of special is every ounce of strength, humility, generosity, and love combined. You don't get a family like ours without a special leader, and you are the true patriarch of this family, Papa, the person who built all of this from the ground up out of pure love. You and your fluffy hair, your soft hands, your pullover sweaters, striped polos, sweet kisses, and loud love yous will be so missed, but we will carry on your legacy and recognize every 5-star day for as long as we possibly can.
All right. I don't have a printer at home, I got it. I'm fine. Papa. I'm going to try to keep this short and sweet today, but there are a few things about Papa's life that I think are important to touch on. I received a bunch of texts from my friends the last couple of days just saying just how great of a man he was. Thank you. I think it's really rare for a grandpa to make such an impact on his grandkids' friends' lives, but he was able to do that just because of the man that he really was. There are a few things about Papa and the way he approached his life that I idolize. Everyone here knows the adversity that he overcame and how the odds of the six of us being up here are truly one of a kind. Against all these odds, Papa always had a contagious smile and laugh that would light up a room, an unmatched joy for life, and all he wanted in life was to see his family and grandkids succeed. I think that's something we can all appreciate. Sorry. As I took the last few days to think back on his life, I didn't expect to be this emotional. One thing that stands out were you always knew Papa's priorities. The biggest one to me was that, and you guys have heard today, all he really cared about was family. Family, family, family was his focus and his priority from the first memory that I have of being alive. As I'm set to get married next month, and to begin a family of my own, the way Papa lives his life, always taking care of and making family a priority, is a perfect example of how I want to live my life. So Papa, I will always appreciate the example you set for me of how to be a man, how to make family a priority, and how to take life's challenges and unforeseen difficulties and be resilient enough to overcome those and live a life filled with joy. For those that don't know, today happens to be my birthday. Well, I'd rather spend today doing absolutely anything else in the world than saying bye to the man who really shaped us all. I can't help but think this is just another way of Papa bringing his family together and allowing those who are truly important in my life to be together for this special day. So Papa, I'll always miss you, always cherish the 29 years we had together, and always appreciate the example you set for me and how to be a man these years. I love you.
Similar to Jory, I was looking through my voicemails the other day, and I always kept a Papa voicemail. There was one that I came across that was perfect. Played it, and starts off, "Jordan, it's Papa," which already was weird. Clearly in the car, and he goes, "We'll be there in 15 minutes," and immediately I hear, "No! Tell him we'll be there in 5 minutes!" Okay. "Jordan, we'll be there in 5 minutes. Don't go anywhere. Goodbye. Love you." It was perfect. It encapsulated everything that Ami and Papa were and are. In it, I laughed for 15 minutes. There aren't enough words to describe just how wonderful Papa was. So I'm going to share a few quick anecdotes that attempt to encapsulate his spirit. Every so often, if I get lucky, I get a Papa comparison. You have Papa's hair. You love to tell stories like Papa. You have Papa's height. And the second I would reach for the, "Well, I've clearly got his genes" retort, I was met with an abrupt "you wish" from whoever was delegating the compliment. But it didn't matter. The damage was already done. Just being in the same sentence as Papa was enough. I was compared to the best, and my ego had been fueled. Sometimes I felt Papa, too, shared the vision that we were cut from the same cloth. I'll never forget when I had recently gotten the golfing bug, and as I began to ask him if he thought I could one day break 90, Papa abruptly chimed in that guys like him and I don't need to worry about breaking 90. We're there to be fun and just keep the game moving. I appreciated the warm sentiment, but I couldn't help but wonder if Adam had received the same version of this speech. still better when Shannon and I called him one year to wish him a happy Father's Day, only for him to return the well wishes to me. When I reminded him, Pop's not a father, he didn't miss a beat and quipped, you know, you never really know until you know. So, to all of our other grandchildren out there today, we love you and appreciate the support. Finally, anyone who knows Shannon knows the love she has for Papa. But anyone who knows Papa knows he loved Shannon just as fiercely. While we wish so badly he could have been with us at our wedding, and Kristen and Adam's as well, I am so fortunate for the time Shannon was able to have with him, and for her to feel the same love that Papa showered the rest of us with every single time we were with him. Papa, I have always and will continue to aspire to be a fraction of the person you are, because to do that would be better than anyone I've ever met. I love you, Poppers.
I also don't have a printer. So Papa's passing marks a painful and unfortunately inevitable loss, the loss of a generation of the Walton family. This to me feels more significant, sobering, and final than anything I've ever experienced before. 95 years of life. 95 years of which began in inexplicable tragedy and drastically transformed into what would be anyone's dream. Security, prosperity, health, laughter, and love. The way Papa loved, from my perspective, was the most defining of all of his traits. His love for our Ami was unrelenting when she was alive, and even more strikingly evident in her passing. Their steadfast commitment to one another, an unmatched bond, was ultimately infused into the relationships of all of us standing up here today. There is nothing in this life I am more grateful for than our family, and specifically to both Papa and Ami for providing us with family that we choose authentically over and over again. Without Papa, there will be an enduring crack in our foundation, and without both of my grandparents, a deep sense of loss amongst all the people who they've collectively impacted. While their presence is irreplaceable, I will reflect forever on their memories with deep gratitude for their unwavering support for me personally and the legacy of love and resilience that they've left for our family.
I call up Howard's son Mark to speak of his father.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you all for coming today. We all appreciate it very much, and those of you who are online, we appreciate it as well. Those are hard acts to follow. My dad was a hard act to follow. I'm glad that what he brought to us has rubbed off on us and our kids, our family, and I know his friends. When I was little, he used to refer to me as his little buddy. And that's the kind of relationship that we had that was very, very close. What I want to do today is to provide honor to my dad by telling some stories about his life, some of which you've already heard, so I'll truncate some of them. But to give you an idea, for those that don't know, some of the detail of the past. But I take it that those of you that are here, those that are watching, most of you have met him and understand the quality of person he was and what he brought to his friends and his family all these years. He had this incredible ability to connect. It was uncanny. I don't know that I've ever seen anything like it in my life. Young, middle-aged, old, all kinds of different ethnic groups, religious groups. He just had this infectious way of being a part of everybody and by everybody enjoying his company. I have many incredible and fond, indelible memories growing up. In fact, one was just reminded me when the honor guard was folding the flag. I had forgotten all these years. As a kid, he taught me how to fold a flag correctly. Something I probably haven't thought of in more than 50 years. But I do remember those days back as a kid and riding on his shoulders and following him on my little toy mowing lawnmower, and he was mowing the lawn, and Adam reminded me that he and I would sit together or stand together at the sink shaving in the morning with his little toy shaving kit, and I used to do the same thing with my dad. At one stage of my dad's career, he was in sales and he traveled every week by airplane, and Debbie and I and my mom would take him to the airport on every Sunday and pick him up every Thursday. And Debbie and my mom would stay in the car, and I would go in. Those days you could go direct to the gate, and I would go to the gate. I'd wait for him every Thursday behind the wall, behind the corner, as if he didn't expect for me to be there. But there I was popping out, and of course he gave me this big smile and hug and was thrilled to see me. He was a very laid-back guy who rarely showed anger and rarely scolded me, although there was my mom who took care of most of that. There was a time that my high school girlfriend came over to study with me, and we were in my room supposedly studying, but we weren't. And my dad walked in and saw us making out, and his reaction was, "Oops, sorry," and closed the door behind him. But I was kind of embarrassed and concerned that I'm going to get a big lecture about studying, and so I went downstairs, and I'm like, "Dad," and he said, "Don't worry, I used to do the same thing when I was your age." A more serious time was when my parents and sister were on a Sunday trip to Wisconsin, and I was alone, and my mom's car was in the garage, but I was only 15, and I only had my driver's license permit, certainly not my driver's license. But I decided for some reason to take out my mom's car, journey around, pick up a friend, drive around Highland Park, park it in the exact same spot that I had left it, and they would be nothing of the wiser. And they came home, and it seemed like minutes. I was up in my room where I heard my mom saying, "Mark, come down here." There was my mom and dad, and I knew I was in big trouble, and I was from my mom. And they said, "Were you in take our car today?" And I couldn't deny it at that point. And my dad tried to discipline me, but appearing on his face with this big smile that he couldn't. And it was like as if he was thinking, I would do the exact same thing when I was 15 years old. But my dad did so much for us growing up, teaching values that are some of the most important elements of one foundation. The rabbi and others spoke about his and my mom's work in B'nai Torah, creating the synagogue that grew to, at one point, I think over 1,000 families. He was an astute, honest, and fair business person. He worked with my great uncle, Uncle Kurt, for many years in the ironing board pads and cover business. Then they both entered into the plastics world where, interestingly, this little Jewish guy was making plastic Santa Clauses for people all over the country. Then later, after retiring from the manufacturing business, he entered the travel industry with his friend, the late Jim Foster, and became president of Travel Professionals. My dad was an only child. Growing up during the beginnings of World War II, he survived the horrors of the Holocaust, although he was put in concentration camp with his parents, which interestingly was the same concentration camp that my mom was in at one point. They could have run into each other. They didn't know. They didn't know each other. There was only one long road in the camp, so they may have seen or met each other way back then. The conditions were horrific, but partly due to having family in Chicago, he and his parents were able to get out and eventually travel by ship to Cuba, where they lived for a short time before moving to Chicago. My dad later joined the U.S. Army, and incredibly, he was sent back to Germany on behalf of the U.S. Army So he actually served in the same war that he was imprisoned in. And if you think about that, I mean, it's just incredible that probably almost nobody other person has shared in this world. But he spent about 8 months in Germany. He was an interpreter, and he was awarded a Victory Medal and an Army of Occupation Medal for Germany. My mom was actively involved in teaching about the Holocaust with her life's passion of accepting to educate the world so it is never forgotten. My dad, on the other hand, was far less vocal about his experience, but would provide detail if asked. The detail is so sad and tragic, perhaps that's why he didn't speak about it very much. There's so many wonderful things to say about my dad, many of them that have already been said, but the one area that I hope to convey is his love of family and his relationship with friends, which is perhaps the biggest legacy he will leave. He connected with everyone. As I said before, nearly everyone I've ever met had an interaction with him that had comments such as, "What a wonderful guy, I really enjoyed being with him, he's such a nice person." His relationships were deep and went back to his high school days, as my sister said. I want to take a minute or two, though, just to describe one of my dad's closest friendships, which transferred to important relationships in my life and my family's life. One of the first friends he met in Highland Park were neighbors Armin and Elaine Kaplan. They had 3 sons, Tom, Peter, and Robbie, all of whom are here today. Through the years, these 2 couples developed a bond which ultimately included their sons and Debbie and me. Tom and I were born 10 days apart and remain like brothers today. Our dads are the ones that created this special bond. And they also created a special annual trip just for the boys, which we began when we were about 12 years old. And we continued until Armin's death, and actually I renewed it again next year. Our kids, hopefully grandkids, will join for years to come, and this will be a tradition that will last forever. But it started from that strong foundation that our parents provided us. These are the types of people they are and what we turned into, and I think probably what you've seen already today, what our kids are turning into as well. My dad had friends in virtually every walk of life. He enjoyed people and they enjoyed him. When he had an office downtown, he had a regular weekly night out group, which included a travel agent, a member of the building security team, a person they met in a coffee shop, and they went out once a week on a weeknight for drinks and laughter. He developed a friendship with a young single guy in his 30s when my dad was near 80. But the guy had a boat. He lived kind of a fun bachelor life, but loved hanging out with my dad. And my dad loved hanging out with him. As I said, it didn't matter, young, middle-aged, or old. Many of you know that probably for 10 years, my dad met a group of about 10 friends every Saturday at Denny's in Highland Park. And just another gesture of him and his background and ability to connect. I joined the group about 5 years ago when my dad could no longer go alone, and along with Effie, one of his caregivers that he met at Whitehall, who became part of the family as well. Almost everybody at Denny's knew my dad, knew us. Up until he passed away, there were only 2 of them left. Now there's 1. But up to the week that he passed away, pretty much the week he passed away, we would still go to Denny's, Effie or I. We'd pick up Denny's, we'd bring it to him, and something he really enjoyed. Just to give you another example of the connections he made, I spoke to one of the waitresses yesterday by the name of Rosie at Denny's, who said incredibly wonderful and warm things about my dad, as if he were a family member or even her father. Just the kind of guy that he was. Our family has been an important part of his life, in our lives. Cousins, uncle, we've got a number of them came in today from out of town, which we really appreciate. The Vosses, the Cohns, the Watkins, the Hausmans, all very close family. We're a small family partly because of the war and those family members who couldn't make it here after being exterminated in Germany. But 2 grew to 4, and 4 grew and grew, and now there are 15 of us between the Millers and the Waltons, including spouses and spouses-to-be. Papa and Ami loved all of us unconditionally, and the same was in return. While everyone is special in their own right, if I had to take a private poll, I'm guessing my dad would win the family popularity contest. He was just that kind of guy. We've been blessed by the many years of being together and are blessed now by those wonderful memories. I hope he's in peace and enjoying time with my mom and the many friends and family who have gone before him.
Howard made it seem possible that we'd never be here on a day like today. It seemed like he would live forever. He's one of the final members of a generation quickly leaving us. His intelligence, warmth, and values remain in all of us who knew him and loved him. We must all do our best to emulate all Howard tried to teach us about living life, being the best individuals we can be. In living, we all try to make the world a better place. We try to make a difference wherever we go and bring children into this world who grow and thrive, bringing new life into existence. We are all Howard's legacy. Howard worked hard to make a difference in the lives of his family and in the world, and as a friend of all those who knew and loved him. May we always remember the best of him in his strength and health. May his memory always be a blessing, as he was such a blessing in all of our lives. The poet Merritt Malloy wrote, "When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old people who wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother and sister walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not on your mind. You can love me most by letting hands touch hands, by letting bodies touch bodies, and by letting go of people that need to be free. Love doesn't die. People do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away." We turn in our pamphlets and read together the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. We continue with El Malei Rachamim, our memorial prayer. You may rise if you wish. El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Amsei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Ashchina, Im Kedoshim Torim, Kezohara Ki Amazirim, Ed Nishmat Ish Ben Adonai, Shalach Lolamo, Valarachmim Yasterehu, V'seit Kanafav Lolamim, Vitor HaChayim Et Nishmato, Adonai Hu Nachlato, V'yanuach B'Shalom, Al Mishkavo V'Namar Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Howard Walton, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence in the shadow of your wings, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. We continue together in the pamphlet with the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'alma divrach chirotei v'yamlich malchotei, v'chayechon v'yomechon, v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, v'agalav v'zman kariv v'maru. Amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam olamei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'tomam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudusha barichu, le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'maru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'maru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'maru. Amen. May God grant peace to those who mourn and comfort to all bereaved as we say together. You may be seated.
Shiva will be observed at the Miller residence at 1655 Marcy Court in Deerfield, where they will receive calls of condolence today upon return from the cemetery until 9 p.m. There will also be minion services at 5 p.m. at the residence. In a few moments, everyone here is going to be invited to come forward and place earth into the grave. We will ask that everyone please be very mindful of your footing near the grave for your safety. After everyone has placed their measures of earth, the gentleman from the cemetery will complete the burial with their equipment. If you find being here while they're doing that upsetting or disturbing in any way, we would ask that you please return to your cars at that time as they do complete our burial. Thank you.
We pray silently during the lowering and the vaulting.
Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Yalala, yala, yalala. Olam chesed yibaneh. Yalala, la, la, yalala. Olam chesed yibaneh. Yalala, la, la, yalala. Olam chesed yibaneh. Yalala, la, la, yalala. Olam chesed yibaneh. Yalala, yala, yalala. Vezimrat ya vayahili lihishua ozi Vezimrat ya vayahili lihishua ozi
It's become ancient tradition to place earth into the grave of a loved one of the greatest mitzvahs because we know it cannot be repaid. So it's become tradition to place 3 shovelfuls of earth into the grave to show the love and intention which you come to this mitzvah we wish we did not have to perform. Family. all friends who wish to participate.
Do you work for the cemetery? Do you have any, okay, do you have a map of the cemetery by any chance?
Folks, our services here are now concluded. We will ask that everyone please return to your cars and please step out of the way so the gentleman can complete the burial. Folks, we do need everyone to step out of the way so that everyone can get back to the car.